and welcome. Before we get into today's stories, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It was October 28th, 2019, and 22-year-old Elizabeth Lamont had just finished her shift at local number 9 Deli in Johnstown, New York. She was the kind of girl everyone described as bubbly and hard-working, someone who'd take on extra hours without complaining, because she had bills to pay and dreams that needed funding. That night, she sent a few quick texts to her sister and a close friend, letting them know she was heading out, but then nothing. No replies, no calls, no updates. By the next morning, people were worried. Her family knew something was off immediately. Elizabeth wasn't the type to just disappear. She had a young son, people who depended on her. So when hours turned into a full day without hearing from her, her sister picked up the phone and reported her missing. At first, police did what they always do. They looked close. They checked with her boyfriend. They checked with her ex. Both of them had alibis that seemed solid. And when the search circled back to her workplace, that's when 2 names started surfacing again and again. James Duffy, a co-worker with a sketchy past, and Georgios Kakavelos, the deli owner who, well, let's just say, wasn't exactly known for running the cleanest business in town. When Elizabeth's disappearance hit the police blotter, it didn't take long for investigators to notice something strange. Normally, in a missing person case, you'd expect a lot of people checking in, trying to help. But at the deli, the vibe was different. Her co-workers seemed nervous, and her boss, Georgios Kakavelos, gave off an odd kind of detachment, like he wanted the subject changed as quickly as possible. And then there was James Duffy. Everyone in town knew Duffy had his demons. He'd been in and out of trouble for drugs, and when police started digging, they learned he and Elizabeth hadn't exactly been on good terms. People described Duffy as volatile, the kind of guy who could be your friend one second and explode the next. Detectives started canvassing the area, talking to customers, checking nearby cameras, and pulling Elizabeth's phone records. What they found wasn't reassuring. Her last known location pinged near the deli, right around closing time. No movement after that. And when they asked Georgios about her shift that night, his answers were vague, slippery, like he was trying to dodge something. The more they pushed, the clearer the picture became. Elizabeth's disappearance wasn't random. Whatever happened to her, it started at that deli. It didn't take long before the walls started closing in on James Duffy. Under pressure, people like him usually talk, and sure enough, he started slipping. At first, he stuck to the line that he didn't know what happened to Elizabeth, but investigators had already pulled surveillance, and they knew he wasn't telling the truth. His movements the night she vanished didn't line up with his story. So, when police sat him down for questioning, the cracks started to show. Duffy looked exhausted, jittery, like someone who knew the game was almost up.
I do, because I want my friend back, okay? Now I don't want to wish my friend. She was a hellified worker that I can never replace.
Something happened to this girl. You gotta tell us. Are you this guy that was around for an accident? And you feel awful about it, but you're about to tell us? Or are you this guy that...
No, bro, listen. She was fine when I seen her last. I tell you this much, I don't know.
Finally, he broke. He admitted there was more to the story, that Elizabeth hadn't just vanished into thin air. She had been killed, and he was part of it. But here's where the bomb dropped. Duffy insisted he hadn't done it alone. He pointed straight at his boss, Georgios Kakavelos, the man who signed his paychecks. According to Duffy, Georgios masterminded the whole thing. Elizabeth had become a problem. She knew too much about shady business dealings at the deli, and Georgios wanted her gone. Duffy claimed he was manipulated, pressured into helping carry out a plan that spiraled far darker than he'd ever imagined. For detectives, it was a turning point. This wasn't just a missing person case anymore, it was a homicide. And suddenly, the man who looked calmest in the room, Georgios Kakavelos, was now at the centre of a murder plot. Once James Duffy pointed the finger, investigators zeroed in on Georgios Kakavelos. On the surface, Georgios played the part of a hard-working business owner, the guy running a local deli blending into small-town life. But behind that clean image, things weren't nearly as neat. His business was drowning in debt, he was cutting corners, and people around him whispered about shady financial dealings. Detectives started pulling records, and sure enough, the numbers didn't lie. Georgios was sinking fast. He owed thousands. Vendors were chasing him down, and the deli wasn't bringing in nearly enough cash to keep him afloat. Elizabeth Lamont, one of his employees, had seen things firsthand. She knew about money problems, questionable bookkeeping, and, according to Duffy, she had started to talk about it. So when investigators pieced it together, the motive started to look chillingly clear. Elizabeth wasn't just a victim of bad luck, she was a liability. Georgios, desperate and backed into a corner, saw her as a threat to his already crumbling world. Meanwhile, detectives tailed Georgios, checking his alibis, matching up his timeline with Duffy's confession. And the deeper they dug, the more it looked like Georgios wasn't just a man with money problems, he was a man with something very big to hide. As the investigation dug deeper, the picture of what happened to Elizabeth Lamont finally came into focus, and it was horrifying. James Duffy admitted that on the night of October 28, 2019, he attacked Elizabeth inside Georgios Kakavelos's deli. According to him, Georgios had ordered it, insisting she needed to be taken care of. Duffy said he struck her with a hammer, a brutal and personal act that ended her life instantly. But the violence didn't stop there. After killing her, Duffy claimed that he and Georgios worked together to cover it up. They wrapped her body, loaded it into a car, and drove miles away. For hours, they searched for a place where no one would stumble across her. Eventually, they left her in a shallow grave off a desolate stretch of road near Malta, New York. By the time police recovered her remains, the brutality of the crime was undeniable. This wasn't a spontaneous act of rage, it was calculated, cold, and covered up with chilling precision. And the two men at the heart of it, one the killer and the other allegedly the mastermind, were now firmly in the crosshairs of the law. Once investigators had Duffy's confession and evidence pointing to Georgios, it didn't take long for the hammer to fall. In May 2021, police arrested both men. Duffy was charged with second-degree murder, while Georgios faced an even heavier slate: first-degree murder, conspiracy, and concealment of a human corpse. For the community, the arrests were a shock. Georgios had been a business owner people saw every day. Now he was painted as the man who ordered one of the most brutal crimes in recent memory. In court, the two men's stories split sharply. Duffy admitted his role, but kept repeating that he was pressured, that Georgios was the one pulling the strings. Georgios, on the other hand, denied everything, claiming he was being framed by a desperate employee trying to save himself. But prosecutors had more than words. They had timelines, phone records, and evidence tying both men to the cover-up. Piece by piece, the case against them grew stronger, and there was no going back. By the time the case went to trial in 2021, the story had gripped the entire region. Prosecutors laid it out bluntly. Georgios Kakavelos, drowning in debt and terrified Elizabeth Lamont would expose his shady dealings, hired his employee James Duffy to kill her. They painted Georgios as the mastermind, the man who planned it all, provided the resources, and directed every step of the cover-up. Duffy took the stand, admitting to striking Elizabeth, but repeating that he was under Georgios's orders. His testimony was graphic, but it was also the prosecution's biggest weapon, tying Georgios directly to the crime. Defense attorneys tried to tear him apart, arguing he was lying to save himself, but the jury had more than just Duffy's word. There were receipts, records, and surveillance footage that showed the two men together around the time of the murder. After weeks of testimony, the verdicts came down. James Duffy was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 18 years to life in prison. Georgios Kakavelos was found guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy and concealment, and the judge handed him life without parole.
Who goes to work thinking your boss is going to kill you? All that Elizabeth Lamont wanted was to get a paycheck and not be paid under the table. How twisted and exceedingly evil Mr. Kakavelos is for taking what would ordinarily be a very simple administrative act and pay her like she wanted to be paid, taking out her FICA and her taxes so that she could be a law-abiding, hard-working member of our community. The defendant is so callous, so greedy, and so self-centered that instead of legitimizing Ms. Lamont's employment and simply giving her a payroll check, he decides in a very diabolical, conspiratorial way to kill her. And the proof showed that she died of severe skull fractures and brain damage.
It was a freezing January morning in 2025 when 30-year-old mother of two, Ashley Elkins, stepped out of her Warren, Michigan home to run a few errands. She left her two sons, just 7 and 10 years old, in the care of her younger sister, expecting to be back quickly. But Ashley never returned. Hours later, her family couldn't reach her. Her texts suddenly stopped, and her mother's gut screamed something was wrong. Within 5 days, Ashley's silver Malibu would be discovered abandoned near an apartment complex, and investigators would begin to uncover a trail leading to something much darker than anyone expected. Her disappearance quickly spread through local media, sparking concern across Warren and Roseville. Neighbors, friends, and strangers joined in distributing flyers and combing streets.
She loves her family, her kids. She would never just disappear for this many days.
Very concerned. I'm out here passing out flyers and I just got off work. I've been out here all weekend. I am concerned. She's a good person. She's a mother too. I mean, anything outside of that, that's the main focus right there. She has babies. So that's our focus as a family and as a community.
What started as a missing persons case was already giving off the signs of something far more sinister. Ashley had vanished in broad daylight, and the silence surrounding her movements that morning was deafening. Ashley Elkins wasn't just another name in a headline. She was a young mother who ran a small hair business from home, juggling life and family like so many others. Her family describes her as devoted to her children, always putting them first, and never the type to disappear without a word. But Ashley had one problem in her life she couldn't quite shake. Her ex-boyfriend, 32-year-old DeAndre Booker. Ashley had broken things off with DeAndre months earlier, but he wouldn't let go. He made fake appointments to see her, showed up uninvited, and even followed her, something she'd warned her family about. Once a normal relationship that blended him into her household, it had turned into something obsessive and threatening. On January 2nd, Ashley ran her usual errands, even texting her mum, until 9:06 a.m, when the messages abruptly stopped. The last text didn't sound like her at all, and then her phone went dark. Hours later, her sister tracked it to DeAndre's apartment on Pinehurst Street. Ashley's car was gone, DeAndre wouldn't answer his door, and the silence from Ashley was completely out of character. Her family's suspicions instantly turned toward him, and soon, police would feel the same. Within hours, her family was driving around searching neighborhoods, calling hospitals, and even staking out DeAndre's apartment complex. The unease was growing into panic, and with every minute that passed, it felt less like a disappearance, and more like something terrible had happened. Investigators pieced together Ashley's final movements through surveillance cameras. Footage confirmed she entered DeAndre's parking lot that morning wearing her orange shirt and black jacket. Hours later, a man resembling DeAndre was seen with a woman driving her Malibu out of the lot. But here's the catch. The woman was wearing different clothes, and her face wasn't clear. Could Ashley have left alive, or was this someone else? Meanwhile, DeAndre reported a supposed break-in at his apartment, a claim quickly dismissed once police saw the suspiciously bleach-scrubbed bathroom, discarded gloves, and even blood traces hidden in drains. It was becoming clear something violent had happened inside. Still, investigators had to be cautious. Without a body, every clue mattered, and every misstep could weaken the case. The unclear footage left the door open for speculation. Was Ashley still alive when she left? Or was DeAndre staging everything with the help of someone else? Even early on, the investigation was split between possible leads and deliberate distractions. It was a puzzle with too many missing pieces, and DeAndre was already trying to throw police off his trail. The deeper police dug, the worse the story got. Luminol revealed extensive cleanup attempts. Forensics pulled hair, a bullet fragment, and Ashley's DNA from the bathroom. Security footage showed DeAndre dragging heavy boxes and garbage bags to dumpsters late into the night, even using a shopping cart to dump what appeared to be large, heavy objects. By the time police retrieved the dumpsters, trash collection had already occurred.
We met with Chief Berlin and we met with multiple deputy chiefs, and they gave us an update on what was found yesterday. What they indicated was there was substantial evidence collected at the home of the ex-boyfriend. They also indicated that upon that evidence, that Ashley was murdered. They don't have her body at this time. They do have good leads on where her body is. They have a strong suspicion of where she may be.
The boys, 10, 7 years old,
Yes.
won't have a mom anymore.
No, they won't.
What happens next for them?
It's going to take a lot of family. Everyone here is going to take the love and support of the family. They do have their father. They have grandparents. Everyone's going to embrace them and support them. That's actually starting now. The healing starts now.
Evidence was scattered across a landfill the size of hundreds of football fields. Detectives led massive searches, sifting through mountains of waste. But Ashley's remains were never recovered. For days, officers from multiple agencies worked tirelessly at the landfill, combing through 6.5 acres of trash by hand. The work was grueling, dangerous, and heartbreaking, but they pressed on, knowing that somewhere in that heap could be the key to finding Ashley. Families often dread the word landfill in missing persons cases because it means investigators already suspect the worst. And in this case, every clue pointed in only one direction. Ashley had been murdered, and DeAndre had gone to great lengths to cover it up. While investigators built their case, one piece of footage kept nagging at them. The woman seen driving Ashley's Malibu. Was she an accomplice? The shocking truth. It was DeAndre's niece, Payne Barksdale. She testified she had been manipulated into helping, told it was just a friend's car that needed moving. DeAndre's cover-up went so far that he even roped in his own niece, Payne Barksdale, tricking her into moving Ashley's car without telling her what she was part of. Her testimony later revealed just how carefully he'd planned the crime, down to building an alibi with the help of someone who trusted him.
He called me and he said that he needed his friend's vehicle to be removed from his apartment complex because he didn't want to get in trouble.
Now, his apartment complex, have you ever been there before?
No, that was my first time.
Do you know the address?
No, I do not.
Do you know what city it's in?
Roseville.
So he called you and said he needed with moving a car, is that what you're saying?
Yes. It was a co-worker. It was a male co-worker. He said that he had went to his house. The car wasn't registered, so it didn't have any plates. He had just bought the vehicle. He didn't have a license. He wanted me to drive it to his co-worker's house. He said the cop told me having a license, if I was to get pulled over, I wouldn't be in trouble.
When he was arrested, the truth unraveled fast. His phone showed chilling searches like 9mm silencer, murder out of Ragex, and what happens to trash after it's picked up. In court, his behaviour was erratic, yelling, refusing to appear and hiding under blankets, while prosecutors laid out nearly 200 pieces of evidence: DNA, footage, phone records, and witness testimony. Even without a body, the case against him was airtight. Still, Ashley's remains have never been found. Her 2 young sons are left to grow up without their mother, supported by family and a community still searching for closure. Ashley had once trusted DeAndre with her home and her children, but that trust ended in betrayal and violence. The deepest tragedy is not only her loss, but the absence of answers. No grave to visit, no clear reason why, relieving scars that may never fully heal. It was a regular October morning in Riverside, Ohio, the kind where people were rushing to work, grabbing coffee, just another quiet day in suburbia. But that calm didn't last long, because right in the middle of town, near a local intersection, a white SUV sat parked on the side of the road. The driver's seat was empty, the door was unlocked. Inside were a purse, credit cards, and a phone. And the woman who owned it, Cheryl Koker, had completely vanished. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken glass, no blood, just an eerie emptiness. Within hours, her friends and family were calling her phone, driving around, retracing her last steps. No one knew it yet, but this disappearance would turn into one of the most chilling mysteries in Ohio. A case that would twist between family secrets, hidden cameras, and betrayal that felt straight out of a crime thriller. Cheryl Koker was 46, a mum, a wife, and someone who lived for her daughters. She worked hard, cared deeply about her family, and everyone said she had this natural warmth to her, the kind of person who made you feel seen. But like a lot of stories that start picture perfect, there were cracks underneath. Her marriage to William Bill Koker wasn't doing well. They'd been together for years, but things had started to fall apart. By 2018, Cheryl had filed for divorce. She was trying to rebuild her life, focusing on her daughters, her independence, and herself. She was active on Facebook, shared updates, and was even dating someone new. On the outside, it looked like she was finally moving on. But in reality, her decision to leave might have put her in danger, because not everyone was happy about her newfound freedom. October 2nd, 2018. Cheryl dropped her daughter off at school that morning. Everything seemed normal. No distress, no strange messages, nothing unusual in her tone. Afterwards, she was supposed to head home, but hours passed, and she didn't show up to pick up her daughter later that day. Her family started to panic. They called, texted, no response. By evening, they went to her house, hoping she'd just fallen asleep or misplaced her phone, but her car wasn't there. They filed a missing persons report and the search began immediately. The next day, police found her white Ford Edge SUV parked near Brenner Avenue, just a few miles from her home. It wasn't hidden or abandoned deep in the woods. It was sitting in plain sight. Inside, her purse and phone were still there. That detail sent a chill through everyone. No one voluntarily leaves their phone and wallet behind, especially not Cheryl. At first, investigators thought maybe Cheryl had just needed space, but then CCTV footage changed everything. Cameras from a nearby parking lot captured a man wearing black pants and a black hoodie, walking away from the area where Cheryl's car was later found. The problem? The footage was blurry. You couldn't see the face clearly. But police noticed something in his movements, his stride, his build, that looked eerily familiar. When they showed the footage to family members, several said it resembled Bill Koker, Cheryl's husband. Still, there wasn't enough to prove it. Police searched the car and her home, finding no clear signs of struggle. Friends told detectives Cheryl had been terrified of Bill before she'd disappeared. She'd allegedly told some of them, "If anything ever happens to me, it's him." But here's the twist. Some people said the marriage wasn't that bad, that maybe she left voluntarily. Others pointed to the man she'd been dating, suggesting jealousy or conflict. There were so many rumors flying around that it became hard to tell what was real and what was just noise. Once the police dug into the details, things started to get darker. Cheryl and Bill's divorce had turned messy. He was still living in the family home while she stayed elsewhere. On social media, Cheryl hinted about starting a new life, posting motivational quotes, talking about fresh beginnings. But the timing was suspicious. The day before she vanished, she had posted one final update, and then silence. Detectives discovered that Bill had refused a polygraph and wasn't cooperating fully. They also learned that his cell phone data didn't completely line up with where he said he'd been that morning.
Did you kill her?
No, I didn't. I did not. Never in my entire life hurt anyone.
A business's surveillance video the I-Team has previously obtained from the morning Koker disappeared shows her SUV pull into the Kroger parking lot less than a mile from her house. The video shows a person dressed in all black getting out of Koker's SUV. That's close to the time someone called 911 saying they saw a suspicious man dressed in black walking in her neighborhood. Later that night, surveillance footage captures Bill Koker at Kroger getting groceries. As he's leaving, police said Bill Koker appears to have a visible injury on his arm. Investigators believe that is significant to the case.
Even more chilling, investigators found surveillance footage showing a car matching Bill's vehicle driving near the spot where Cheryl's SUV was later abandoned. Then there were the dogs. Cadaver dogs picked up a possible scent near Cheryl's home and another near the wooded area by the intersection. It wasn't enough to confirm anything, but it added to the suspicion that she hadn't simply walked away. In the weeks following her disappearance, new details surfaced about both Cheryl's and Bill's personal lives. Cheryl had started seeing someone else, but so had Bill. And not just casually, he was in another relationship. This wasn't just a disappearance anymore, it was starting to look like a cover-up. Almost 2 years later, in December 2020, hikers found skeletal remains in a wooded area near Haddocks Road, not far from where Cheryl's SUV had been left. The remains were quickly identified through dental records. It was Cheryl. Her family finally had answers, and heartbreak. The area was rural, quiet, and not a place someone would accidentally end up. Police officially ruled her death a homicide. All signs pointed back to one person, her husband. Investigators confirmed that Bill Koker was their prime suspect, but before he could ever be charged or brought to trial, tragedy struck again. In 2022, Bill died by suicide, and with that, the case reached a brutal standstill. No confession, no trial, just silence. Even now, the full truth of what happened to Cheryl that October morning may never be known. But her family continues to speak about her, remembering her as more than a headline, a mom, a sister, a friend who deserved better. In the end, the case became a haunting reminder of how often domestic violence hides behind ordinary walls, behind family photos, smiles, and social media posts. The SUV, the security footage, the divorce, all of it led back to one devastating reality. Cheryl didn't just vanish, she was silenced. And maybe the most haunting part of all is that, in the quiet streets of Riverside, everyone still drives past that same intersection, the one where her car was found, and wonders how close they came to passing by a secret no one was meant to find.